we'll start, and of course, other people may join in or later on, or of course, if you've only got half an hour, stay for half an hour. To begin with our customary salutation, recognition, triple gem. Blessed One, the Lord who fully attained perfect enlightenment, to the teaching which he expounded so well, and to the Blessed One's disciples who have practiced well, to these the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha, we render with offerings our rightful homage. It is well for us as the Blessed One, having attained liberation, still had compassion for later generations. May these simple offerings be accepted for our long-lasting benefit and for the happiness it gives us. The Lord, the perfectly enlightened, the Blessed One, I render homage to the Buddha, the Blessed One. The teaching so completely explained by him, I bow to the Dhamma. The Blessed One's disciples who have practiced well, I bow to the Sangha. Now we pay preliminary homage to the Buddha. Homage to the Blessed, Noble, and Perfectly Enlightened One. Homage to the Blessed, Noble, and Perfectly Enlightened One. Homage to the Blessed, Noble, and Perfectly Enlightened One. Take some time for some introspection, introspection, introspective attention. Mm. So as you'll probably recognize, we're in a process of change constantly. We are a process of change. You know, you look at it at any moment, something's arising, something's passing. The arising of one thing is the passing of another thing. The arising of silence is the passing away of sound. Right? The arising of a thought is the passing away of silence. So they're simultaneous, like the back of the hand and the front of the hand. It's not even one thing rises and the next thing. No, whatever arises, the other side of it is something is ceasing. This is where we are, or what's our location if everything is doing that? Well, you can't name it, but it's pretty obvious. In some ways, once you recognize arising and passing, you know you're not those locations. You're neither the arising nor the passing, because if you were just the arising, there'd be no memory. There's some sense of a continuity, isn't there? Even though the thought that comes up goes, the emotion that rises changes, sensations come and go. If this was the first one that ever happened, but no, it's all flow and change. And we have aware, oh, that's that. We can recognize that. Yeah. If we didn't know there was an arising, right? How do you know an arising? How do you know, oh, it's coming up? Because you're not the arising. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to know it. Right? In the ceasing, if you wouldn't able to, you only recognize the ceasing, you know you're not the ceasing. Otherwise, that which would know the ceasing would be ceasing. But actually, when things cease, the knowing of ceasing doesn't cease. Right? So you arrive at this, we call it knowing or awareness, rising and ceasing. And that also records there's a continuum. There's some sense of time, even though it's not clock time, there's a sense of something, there's a continuation. The process of arising and ceasing keeps rolling on. You know? It's not news. These are not complicated thoughts, but just when we take that in and adjust to that. Because, of course, the nature of what arises and ceases can be extremely challenging or provocative or delightful or horrifying. In that emotional impact, the sanya, horrifying, delightful, suddenly we're in it. We've got thrown into it by passion, by confusion, by worry. And then we're spinning, losing the sense, we feel overwhelmed, losing the sense of balance. And you begin to recognize the only thing you can really rely upon is that stable balance within change. And that's there. It just requires that sense of just alignment to the center, to the stability. very simply speaking, again, we can, well, is your body in alignment? Is it? So once you use that word to your body, you bring that word alignment or balance into your body, what does that do? Oh, yeah, that means not left, not right, not backwards, not forwards, just straight up. Right? Because we know that. Something there's no, oh yeah, that's, and it's great because the body knows this very easily, instinctively, because balance is one of the primary qualities the body is embedded in, just to sustain life and health and freedom from stress. The body will always tune back to, oops, balance, no, oh, yeah. It's quite natural. Doesn't seem that important because the body just does it. But if we keep returning to it and get a sense of what it does when you tune in, when you focus your attention on that, not on the sensations, but on the sense of being balanced, how that affects your emotions. Your emotions can always sense that balance and they begin to stabilize themselves. You don't have to tell them to do anything. Don't to stop them or have a positive emotion or get rid of a negative emotion. You just have to find balance. And then something will say, wait a minute, no, that's not necessary. Just, it calms. We need to remember to do it, of course. So often emotional states can be so rich and full and sometimes overwhelming that our attention goes all the way into them. We don't refer it back to bodily balance. Do that. Relax your shoulders. Take a breath. This is fundamental, isn't it? So simple, but so so obvious, and yet we don't do it. So bringing the heart into that balance, and thinking mind. Thinking mind is generally trying to organize something that it doesn't know yet or is not clear about, or trying to dispel some regret. Oh, I wish I hadn't done that. Or rehearsing and remembering what happened in the past and what you should have done and how you were treated. And this could have been that and that could have been that. Or it's organizing the future, what you should say and are going to say the next time and how you're going to get it right then. No, and organizing the past and the future. Organizing the present, very difficult to do because when we come into the present, things are just arising and passing. It's difficult to organize anything really because things are arising and passing and there's nothing to organize. Things are happening. You can't organize the tingling in your skin or the silence or the shifts that occur in your energies. They just happen. So we come into that and the mind comes into balance. What it knows is nothing can really be known. Nothing can really be fully conceived of. We can't fully understand, intellectualize, conceive anything. We can guess and get close to it about something that could be or should have been, or might be, or wasn't, or will. We can do that, and it's kind of not that accurate, actually. But in the present, you can't even do that. Not because you're crazy, just because the mind has its limits. And we can feel frustrated. Why can't I? Just stop. That's an emotion. Getting impatient, that's an emotion. Go back to balance. Energies change. Energies change. Settle down. Tune into the heart. Because the heart is the center of our intention, our motivation, our action comes from the heart. Do what's beautiful. Do what's true. Do what's possible. Do what's generous. Do act in accordance with the Dhamma. Can't quite get the idea, but get the general mood and sense from the heart, and then you wait. And maybe the mind comes up with, oh, I think I'll do this. So you can use this as a kind of a simple orientation model for how you can act in your day. Ordinary domestic duties, deeply personal duties, society, what you want to do in society, in terms of the welfare of your civic dimension. It won't be clear. It won't be all figured out, but you'll be coming from the right place. You maintain that because you feel balanced and true, and you feel you're participating in this continuum that we all are involved with. And come into balance, direct your heart's awareness into that. The thinking mind bubble away, but come into present, sense what's happening in your body, your energies as your heart finds stability. Listen. What is good, what is true, what is beautiful. Take your time, because in a way, this is very personal. What's arising for you? What seems to claim your attention? Your eagerness, or your worry, other people, and place them under that light. Participatory intelligence based on balance.
Brahmachaloka Dipati Sampati Katanjaliya Nativaram Ayachata Santi Dasahata Parajaka Jatika Dese Tudamam Anukampimam Pajam.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddhang dhammang sanghang namasami. Greetings, everyone. Occasionally we participate in sharing, reflecting. So I've been This is our first week or so after the monastic retreat. Things have got very lively here. I know all the things we need to do and things that have not been done and people coming and so on. Um, and throughout this period, I've also made a point looking, most every day I look at headline news. Um, and every day it's awful. And the next day I think it'll also be awful tomorrow. and, and the day after it will probably be awful. So why do I keep doing this? It's a sort of because I'm part of I'm part of this world to some extent. I'm participating in it, you know. And although many of the events that are relayed, I think I have no direct access to, you know, disasters in Myanmar, um, war in you name it, all over the place, conflict, discord, worry, fear, um, climate crisis. You know, today is called a beautiful day in Britain, a beautiful day, sunny and warm. In fact, but actually, it's a kind of slightly menacing because it shouldn't be sunny and warm, it should be wet. So now we're getting July weather in April. You think, oh, it's not good. You know, it looks nice, but this means things are warming up, things are drying out. Mm. And what are you going to do about it? Yeah. So naturally, we do what we can. We have limit fossil fuel usage, electric car, solar panels, have our own water supply, heat from using our own wood from our forest. You know, we don't use, and then of course, general planetary care. We don't use insecticides, pesticides, herbicides, poisons. We try to use biodegradable washing up liquid and everything we can, you know. We limit, so even our, I have no washing, we have two washing machines for 35 people. Um, oh, of course, you know, one would like to improve it. Uh, and, you know, so of course we don't use too much electricity because a lot of the time the monastery is dark. We switch the lights off because we like it like that. You know, it's quiet. We want it to be quiet. We don't want music playing. We don't want lights everywhere. So power goes down. It's just things we do, you know, it's participating in life on the planet. We have wildlife sanctuary and we create places for snakes to live, which if you live in sort of a tropical country, you might think that's a bad idea. But in Britain, snakes are all very harmless little creatures and they're threatened. So we create a kind of little places, nests of grass and reserves where the snakes can feel safe and warm and breed and bring up their little ones. We built big nesting boxes for owls to live in, you know. Yeah. And so we try to avoid mowing as much as possible to make sure the flowers can grow. So you're really participating in the nature, which is actually very enjoyable because you really, when you participate in something, you really get to feel it and know it. And it kind of, it brings you alive. Like you're not sort of somebody living in a head walking around on top of the planet. You're actually in the planet. You see what I mean? Like, you know, the places, everything is alive. It's not just a wallpaper or a screen. Now, if you live in a city, it's more difficult because you've got concrete and neon and steel and glass, you know. But then you're still breathing the air and drinking the water. So okay, you do for that. And you've got a little bit of garden or 1 square meter of grass. You look after that. And whatever you can, you support life because life is life. We don't know where it came from, how it originated. They probably figure it out in chemistry, but it's all a miracle to me. You only know one thing you know is there's not much of it. The moon, nothing, Mars, nothing, the rest of the planets, nothing. They haven't found a sign of it anywhere else. So whatever life is, there's not much of it around, and it's pretty precious and miraculous. So when you participate in it, it feeds you back because you begin to feel much more belonging and loving. It's easy to love it. It doesn't complain. It doesn't have bad moods. It's never hot. It's not even aggressive. It's quite. It doesn't tell lies. And yeah, has its limitations, but you can actually work with it, and then you get a feeling of joyful participation. Mm. So of course, even things like plastic, it's not much one can do really, but one tries to limit. You know, and we certainly don't encourage it. We have a sign on our monastery website: please don't bring bottles of plastic bottles of water, because that's going to mess up everything. Of course, we're one tiny little speck on the planet. You're thinking, if we all disappeared, it wouldn't make that much difference. So maybe we're not making that much difference in terms of the planet. But in terms of consciousness, we're holding something, we're doing something important. And so you've got to look really at the human being, although we have this materiality, which for human beings is quite limited. The material aspects are quite limited. We can't run as fast as a deer or a wolf. We can't survive outside without lots of bedding. Other animals go around nothing on, they survive. What can we eat? We have to, many creatures just eat what's lying around. We can't. We have to have special cabbages and things like that to eat. We have to. So we're pretty limited. So a big thing is what we can do with our mind and heart. So we develop that. When you go into mind and heart, then you begin to recognize, oh yeah, there's my teachers. Oh yes, there's my son. Oh yes, there's my friends. There's my cousin. There's my father. Oh yes, yeah. And there's that beautiful event that happened then. There's that wonderful teaching I heard 5 years ago. Oh, I'm in that. The continuum of chitta, which is where the memories are stored, where the perceptions of what's meaningful sit in the chitta. Yeah, that's where I am. Yeah, I'm also in a material, which I can do a little bit for. I'm also in this psychological, emotional, spiritual, which is moving me and which I can participate in. And again, feel that sense of encouragement. I can participate in the way of the Buddha. What else would be more beautiful than to participate in that? Because that means, yeah, you can do your driving, your secretarial work, you can do your farming, but you do it guided by the Buddha. So it's a participation in a way whereby right livelihood is an essential part of what it is to be a follower of the Buddha. And right livelihood, very modestly said, is just, making sure that you're not harming creatures in your livelihood. And you look, but then when you extend it, as it is in many of these suttas, the Buddha talks about one's areas of responsibility. Yeah. So we look at things like morality or ethical concern, and you have two sizes. One is called the varita, which means things you refrain from doing, swearing, lying, harming, in, getting drunk, indulging, callous behavior, and so forth. You also have the charita, things that you should do. You make an effort as best you can. And this is where it gets very interesting, because then you have a field of concern. So your relatives, those who depend upon you, uh, your friends, and then you extend it, society, whether you agree with everybody in your country or you probably don't. So many different divisions and conflicts in a society, but you're following the rules, you're using the money, you're to voting or whatever, you're in it. So, what is a responsible way of livelihood and action with reference to your society? That, well, then we look at this is the time to raise an objection. This is a time to say, no, I don't want to buy that. This is a time to say, no, I just don't disagree with that. Now is the time to say, I vote or I choose this. And so this is participation and action. And of course, when we think of action in a society, we think, oh, I can't change it. I'm just one person living in a country of 70 million people. What can I do? Helpless, pawn, government, taxes, stupid things they're spending their money on, corruption. Da, 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 da. What can I do about it? But is that your society? It's part of it, maybe. But we want to be aware of the headline news. It's always about an aspect of society seen through a particular lens, which is what are the big names doing? The presidents and the chiefs and the governors and the whatevers, what they're doing or what they're saying. And it's way removed from what you have access to. They live somewhere else and they've got their security. You can't. So it gives you the feeling the presidents, the prime ministers, the leaders of the government, the leaders of industry, remote figures. And that's what the news is about. So you think, oh, yeah. And it's true. And maybe they're making laws or making statements you disagree with or aren't comfortable with or whatever. And you think, I can't, what can I do about it? So you get the feeling of impotence, frustration, and impotence, and then maybe angry, and then maybe despairing, hopeless, useless. Well, that's not good because you've just reduced your human potential for right action. Human potential for right action has to be based upon the heart feeling balanced, not overwhelmed with moods, not overwhelmed with perceptions, not overwhelmed with ideas and thoughts, but just, okay, then bring it into balance, from the heart into balance, feeling what's happening in the body is straight. And then we say, okay, when we think of participation in society, that very well could mean the people in the same street. It's hardly, when you think of people in the whole country, large country, like Germany or Brazil or somewhere, huge. Actually, I can participate. What I can have hands-on access to is the people in my village or the people who follow the Dhamma. That's my society. So your sense of society is much more fluid and mutable and directly accessible than what one would see in the newspapers. Then you get a feeling, yeah, I can, because yeah, I can talk to her and him, and we can, work something out, or I can look after them. I can bring care and attention to them. And this is really important to get in touch with your own authentic and valid response. Because if we don't, we feel lessened, oppressed, despairing, despondent, stuck. Now, whether we can do anything for the rest of the world is not clear. Probably we could do something for some of it. But what we can, even the Buddha couldn't do things for everybody. But he could do something for some of it, for those who are interested. Uh, no, so, and in fact, all of the practice is based upon opening to participation and just seeing and validating who can participate. And that can change. But if we do that, then we're feeling we are living in accordance with our values, our hearts, our aspirations, and conscience and concern. And there are simple things that everyone needs. We need food, shelter. So anyone you can feed or give shelter to, then you're definitely participating in a skillful way. We need safety, order, reliability. If we're steady and reliable in ourselves, we're providing that. We can't always expect others to be steady and reliable. But as a practitioner, we have an excellent opportunity, a gift of knowing where stability and reliability can be accessed in ourselves in the here and now. So we've got a big advantage through that. Once you have that, then you can, from that place, you can suggest and you can be a stable presence, and that helping others to find their stable presence. This is a great quality. We can experience a sense of compassion and inclusion, not excluding others, at least being sensitive to them, whether we agree with them or not. So for example, monasteries are really about why they're there at all, because certainly in the very early days there were only two of them. And it is a place where anybody can come for an hour, 5 minutes, for 10 minutes, for an hour, for a week, and feel they can somehow participate and feel belonging, feel here's a place where you're not excluded. Now, at Chithurst Monastery, we make a point of not having a gate. So it's never closed. There's no gate. People can drive in and walk in. Now, sometimes things get stolen. We've had that happen. Things get stolen, which is not good. But we're prepared to accept that and try to be careful with our security, but keep the gate open. So there's a sense in You know, you know, it's clearly in lay life, you know, you have to maintain your own security, but at least psychologically, in terms of the mind, you work on that. In terms of the generating the chitta, you generate a chitta that can encompass all beings. Mm. So when and some of them clearly are people we find we share little with. You know, I look at the violence and the aggression manifested by so-called leaders of our world. I find that very difficult, disappointing. But I do include awareness of them with a sense that may they find their own balance. And at least with them, I'm beginning to contemplate and understand the danger of power, the threat of power, what power does to the human citta, how it inflates everything, and how people get captured by lust for power. Once one has lust for power, then hatred and violence become acceptable. As we can see, people in powerful positions generally, not always, but are much more ready to do harm to others. Mm. using national resources to do so. Because the power inflates the citta to I am supreme, or I belong to the supreme nation, I have the supremely good idea, I have the supreme religion, I have the supreme ideology. And once we get into the supremacy idea, we lose participation, humility, receptivity, we become arrogant, proud, and forceful. So nobody, you don't want to be supreme. So in your mind, even in your mind, you don't follow those notions or even try to be supreme, supremely anything, you know. So I wouldn't say I'm supremely virtuous. I'm the most virtuous person on the planet. No, no, no. I participate in the field of virtue. I'm grateful that virtue does come to me. I didn't create it. It's not mine. I participate in the field of virtue. I'm not supremely virtuous. I participate in the field of meditation. I'm not supremely great at meditating. I participate in it. I'm grateful the degrees of clarity and calm do arise for me, but I don't claim them as something I have or I can tell everybody else. I say, this is what I do. May I encourage you to find your own, you know. So that sense of, you know, how you want to eliminate the sense of self referencing as supreme or impotent. No, we're not impotent, nor are we dominant. We are participants. Let's participate. If that means participating in the local village, let's do that with keeping our sila and our samadhi and our panya with us. Can't do anybody any harm. I've never seen it do anybody any harm. Generally, people are refreshed and delighted whenever you manifest it. So that's how the society grows. And when we look into the history of the Buddha, he started out on his own, one person. What can I do? Too much pain, too much confusion, too much ignorance going on. Why bother? Brahma spirit of compassion, says, well, there's a few who'll pick it up. Just do that. Pick up the Dhamma for the few. Okay? I serve the Dhamma. I serve the Dhamma. Starts walking. Meets his old friends. And the first question, have you seen like anybody look like this before? No, we haven't. Then listen. You know, I tell you something about what you're doing. So really including them and involving them in 6 arahants. Then 6 arahants, you must walk through the world. You must walk through the world. Don't be a hermit, walk through the world. And as you meet people, just let your presence and your understanding manifest. Participate. And that's your, so out of that, you get a whole kind of growing circle, growing thing. And that was 2,500 years ago, approximately. Since then, we had the Indian empires rising, falling. Chinese Empire rising, falling. British Empire rising, falling. Genghis Khan rising, falling. Adolf Hitler rising, falling. Horrible, terrible things rising, falling. Great people who conquered the world, knew it all. Alexander the great general, rising, falling. You know, what continues is the Buddha, right? Because the Buddha is now in us. That's the transmission. The Buddha, I'm not Buddha. I have a bit. You have a bit. Otherwise, you wouldn't be listening to this. That's the transmission, right? And that's the transmission that's continued when the power and the guns have arisen, made their noise, and crumbled. That's what's continued. The silent one, the quiet one, the blessed one. And he's saying, walk through the world. You know, it's not a pleasant walk. You know, so if I spend my 10 minutes, look at this. Just so just not because I can do anything, just because I want to actually work with a sense of despair. I don't feel happy. I feel very worried. I feel despairing. I feel hopeless. I think, why do they ever do this? This is ridiculous. Okay, there's the sun, there's the impressions, and just, okay, here we are. Okay. Meet that worry, that grief, that irritation, that despond, meet that, find the balance, turns into compassion. That's what happens when you meet it, the world, you meet the world properly from that place of balance and openness, turns into compassion. And then you just do what you can. You do what you can, because not because you're expecting everything's going to work out perfect, because you either do something or you become or you don't do something. Simple as that. You either do something or you meditate or you just try and ignore it. I don't want to ignore it, so I do something. I do something here on the screen. Yeah. I write things, I teach things, I travel. I don't like traveling, don't like it at all, but I do it. I walk because I have to walk in the world. That's my thing, you see. In my little piece of incarnation. If I didn't do it, I would feel unbalanced and therefore a sense of not have regret and really not having lived properly in terms of charita, the duty to do. And you look at some of those, the Mangala Sutta, you know, associate with the wise, look after your friends and relatives, your wife and kin, learn a discipline, train yourself, yeah, be generous and giving, cultivate restraint, seek fellow beings, seekers of the truth, cultivate dispassion and nibbana, and then while living in the world, remain stainless, free. That's, yeah. So you participate. We need that sense of valuation that comes not through pride or egotism, but one feels one is living according to values. Whether anybody else recognizes it or not, we're living according to values. If we don't have that sense of living according to values, what are we living with reference to? Monetary gain, praise, who knows? But living according to values that everyone can participate in. They're not particularly ideological stances. They're values that everyone can participate in. Do we all recognize that we don't want harm to ourselves, therefore we don't want harm to others? We don't want to be lied to, therefore we don't lie to others. We don't want to be cheated, so we don't cheat others. I mean, it's very simple in some ways. But once you see yourself as separate from everybody else, then this is where the problem begins. You get feeling I'm better, I can do whatever, they're just them, who cares? Once you come to the level of participation and remember and reflect upon that, then what I value in ways I act towards others, I hold those values, and what nourishes me in terms of valuing, I am blessed by a sense of a stable center. And this is how we cultivate or rise at fulfillment. Everyone, they're getting their food, shelter, so forth. But finally, human life, particularly in terms of human consciousness, is really aimed at for realization that at some time, somehow I've reached beyond myself. I've reached beyond my personality. I've reached beyond my history. I've reached beyond the things that my body, my physical condition. I have moved beyond that. I've found a place that's beyond my ego. Now, people can do this in various ways, of course. You kind of some people do it just through their medical work. They actually reach beyond themselves, or their artistic career. But certainly in terms of Dhamma, one has an excellent opportunity to keep reaching beyond your self-limitation. And this is, for a human being, this is really pretty essential. Without that, if we haven't reached beyond ourselves, you just try to figure out what I'm talking about. If you haven't reached beyond your sense of your limitations, your sense of your ego, your sense of your personality, if you haven't been in some way courageous, self-sacrificing, daring, opening to, then you haven't really lived. You've just been getting by. You've just been, getting by. You don't want to just get by in your life. You want to reach beyond. And certainly in our ongoing predicament, it's one of our duties, or duties, but our encouragements is to keep reach beyond that sense that arises in the chitta. I'm only, I can't, it's impossible. What's the point? You want to keep meeting that and reaching beyond it. If you do this, it's going to be for your own welfare, it's going to be the welfare of others, and the more that everybody can, as many people can join in with this as possible, it's going to be for the welfare of the greatest number of people and other human beings, and not just people, but other creatures, right? Yeah. So this is the way I kind of transmute the world as it touches me. I transmute the world I receive through the media. I transmute it into something actually stops me just sinking down. It keeps me rising up, rising, rising, rising. And there's no limit to that. So thank you for your attention. And I hope some of this is something you can make use of or consider and adapt to your own understanding.
Handamayang Dhammakataya Sadhu Katham Tatamase Sadhu 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 Anumodami.
Well, thank you very much for your attention. Thank you again, Beta, for hosting this session, as you've done this so diligently over several years now. And who'd have thought that the COVID pandemic would bring such blessings? If it hadn't been for COVID and Beta, these things would not exist. These sessions would not exist. So that's how you turn it around, yeah? uh, hopefully, I think the next session we have is in May 10. And hopefully, if you have the time, we can spend an hour or so together and stay in the stream. Take good care.
Paul, shall we do the closing?
Indeed. Lord, the perfectly enlightened and blessed one, I render homage to the Buddha, the blessed one. The teaching so completely explained by him, I bow to the Dhamma. The Blessed One's disciples who have practiced well, I bow to the Sangha.
So, Long Paul, please allow all of us to express our gratitude and appreciation to you for doing this for so many years. Since it's 2025, it's just reminded me it was around this time, 5 years ago, that you were the first teacher that started.
Five.
Yes, five.
My goodness.
You were the first teacher that pioneered Dhamma on Zoom, so we're really very grateful.
My goodness. Okay.
Okay, so brothers and
Keep
sisters,
going. Let's keep going, yeah. Let's keep going till it drops.
so with deep gratitude, Long Paul, allow us to pay respects to you. We wish you good health, Long Paul. We'll see you again soon.
Okay, take care.